Mm.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Barriers. I'm Safrianna Luna, and as always, it's a delight to be joined by my dear friend Red Moon Eagle. Today, we are talking about empathy. This is the third part of a series where we're talking about foundational human gifts, and today we're going to deep dive into the gift of empathy. So, Red, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Red Moon Eagle. I'm the psychic catalyst, teacher, healer, and this is probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about the foundational gifts. So I'm excited to talk about empathy today. And I caveat that with I am not an empath. So
Yes, so I will definitely be sharing probably some personal perspectives today on empathy for sure, since I do have that gift of empathy. And just in case you don't know me, I'm Safrianna Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I'm a licensed trauma therapist turned transformational mentor, author, CEO, and whatever else I feel like being on any given day, because always changing, growing, learning, expanding. That's what I do.
yep.
So today we're talking about empathy, and just as that little recap, we've talked about how there are three foundational gifts, and you have at least one. You may have a combo of two or three. And energy sensitivity that we talked about last time is more or less picking up the vibes that are being put down in the space, being able to feel the atmosphere, the magnetic information between people or objects. Whereas empathy, as we're going to get into, is actually picking up and feeling or tasting the quality of others' emotions very specifically. So, Red, empaths have a very different lived experience than someone who's just got energy sensitivity and earth sense. So what would you say is at its core the biggest fundamental difference that makes an empath an empath?
An empath has the ability and navigates the world feeling other people's emotion with their emotional sensors, their filaments. They have the I can see them. I know that other energy sensitives can feel them. As soon as you point it out to an energy sensitive that is aware that something's happening, they'll tell you. They're like, "Oh yeah, I feel that."
Mhm.
But empaths often don't even realize that that's what they're doing. But they navigate their entire world through that emotional sensing, that flavor of emotion. They actually, if you're angry, they feel angry with you. It's not a removed, oh, you've explained that you're angry, and I compassionately, sympathetically go, oh, I've been there, I broke my leg too, I totally feel that, right?
Mhm.
That's compassion, that's sympathy, that's having a like experience.
Right.
Empaths actually feel what it is that you're feeling emotionally. It's not necessarily physiologically, right? So kind of depends on how the gifts are, but an empath, if I'm angry, I'll say sad. If I'm sad, an empath, when they use their sensors,
Sensors.
they touch everything. They touch everything with their sensors, and they'll touch me, and they will be sad. And sometimes I had an empath describe this amazingly well. They use that sensor and they reach out and they touch, and deep wells of like sadness or rage, right? Things like that. It like taints their little sensor. And
Mhm.
then that taint, it's not a taint, the emotion will flow up the sensor into their body, and like 15 minutes later they can feel just this overwhelming sadness. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes later, it can be 3 seconds later, it can be
Or 3
instantaneous,
hours later,
or it
as
can be
I
3 hours later.
experienced the other day.
Yeah, absolutely. So it it's not always like I stub my toe and the empath feels the pain in my toe, in their
Mhm.
toe, right? Like that's a little bit of a combo gift thing that isn't a straight, it's not a straight line. Empathy is the gift of empathy is actually feeling someone's emotions.
Yeah.
And what happens with children that are empathic with other people that are empathic in their field. It happens to adults too, but it can really affect children as they grow up, which is that feedback loop, which is, I'm not an empath, but say that I am, and I'm sad, and you've reached out with your sensors and you've touched me and you become sad. And then I feel that you felt my sadness, and then your sensors are still feeling my sadness that's now compounded because I felt your sadness. And then my feelers are still connected to your feelers. So I feel the compoundedness of your sadness, of my sadness, of your sadness that was my sadness,
It's a
you know.
time.
And then a couple minutes later, everybody's sad and nobody knows who started it and nobody really knows what's going on. And children who go through that without any validation, like if they go to mommy and mommy's an empath and child goes, Mommy, I feel sad that you're sad. And mommy goes, I'm not sad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just having a bad day. It'll be fine. You have now completely dismissed your child's empathy. And that poor child is now really confused because if mommy's an empath too, mommy gets that feedback loop that hasn't been validated. Child gets a
Mm-hmm.
feedback loop that isn't validated. And you have a little bit of some neurotic empaths at that point.
Yeah.
No shame, no blame there. I'm just pointing out I have witnessed this once or twice, more than that. And it's there's an opportunity for clarity. That's why that's why I love talking about this topic, because I see, and you and I have talked about this in the counseling terms of hurt people, right?
Right.
And empaths have this beautiful gift, and we don't cherish it for what it is. So
Yeah.
sideways on that. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. The the lived experience of being an empath, hello. Literally this feedback loop. I'll just give some examples because I experience it like every day. So one of my partners, the partner that I nest with, who I'm around most frequently, is a fellow empath. And we wake up every morning, we sleep separately, we come together and we go, "Hi, how are you doing? Hi, how are you doing?" And we share, like, what we're feeling in the morning. And inevitably at some point will be is this my anxiety or your anxiety?
Yeah.
I feel a little stressed. Is this my stress or your stress? Every day something like this goes down, where we then have to sort out. And usually one of us will be like, "Oh, well, I didn't feel that until we were in the room together," or "I didn't feel that until we got talking about it," because there can be a delayed onset with empathy. And I just really witnessed this the other day. I was holding space for a client, and it was a longer session, and I was really holding the space and feeling the material and what I needed to respond to in the moment. And then after I left the session and got back into my own space, all of a sudden the emotions started to impact me. I was holding the clear space during the session, but then, my feelers, I call them my feelers, because to me they look like little Bulbasaur vines. If you're a Pokemon nerd, I have two that come up over my shoulders, and then I have some that come kind of out of my tummy area. But those, it's like a slow winding up into the body. So at
Yeah.
first the tips feel it, and then it slowly integrates, and that can be 3 seconds, it can be 30 minutes, it can be 3 hours, it could
Yeah.
even be the next day that
Yeah.
an empath really takes in the full the fullness of what they've experienced. And so there are some big, we'll call them I want to call them energetic hygiene, but we'll call it empath hygiene instead, of learning to shake out the feelers.
Yep.
Envision water cleansing the sensor
Mhm.
array, however you experience this yourself, if you are an empath, or tucking
Mhm.
the sensors away when you're going into a situation where you don't want to be picking up the information. And that's something that for me, as an empath, I've had to learn to allow the gift to be there when I'm actually trying to connect to people, and
Yeah.
to remove it when I'm not trying to connect to people, like in the
Yeah.
grocery store when you're wandering through and I feel that, angry dad over there whose kid is whining, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to feel that. Like,
Yeah.
that's where it has to be withdrawn.
I think that so many years ago, I think some older practitioners might resonate with this. Because I'm energy sensitive, I am very aware of shields. What are the shields that happen? And I've, I look back and I giggle a little bit, all the eights that I worked with over the years that I like, they always have this natural shield, and I didn't know anything about bio numbers. And I was always a little bit curious, like, why does that one have a natural shield and these people don't? And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just identify it and move on because I don't know where it comes from. And now I know, right? But shielding and practicing shielding, there's actually so many books on this. Like, how do you magically protect yourself? How do you shield yourself? And I accidentally stumbled into this right about the time I met my partner, who is an empath. And I'm saying only an empath, no earth sense booster, no energy sensitivity. This person is just empathic. Now, probably one of the most powerful empaths I know. And I do not say that lightly.
all the compounding of that gift.
Oh, yeah. But at the time, I was teaching a workshop on shielding and grounding. And I was teaching what I knew worked. It does work for empaths. But the thing that happened with my partner, this particular person, was that he had been shut down. So empaths have the ability, and I know that this is a thing. I don't know how it happens. I'm really not sure the mechanics of it or the psychology of it, but I know what it feels like when I encounter it, which is, this is what I encountered with my partner. I had met him out dancing. So this weird guy, like standing next to me, I'm like, you're strangely void like, but you're not a void. And it's weird. And I don't know what's going on. And I had assumed, okay, somebody with a natural shield. I got out on the dance floor with him, and all of his empathic sensors came out like a flower. And dancing with his man was like, whoa. Like, it was this most amazing, like, I am safe and I'm being enveloped with these sensors that were just these gentle feelers on me, sensing me. But it was also, he was in touch emotionally with everything. But most of the focus was me, his partner, right? To dance. And I had the most beautiful dance I'd had in months. And I got off the dance floor and they all went, and he just disappeared. It was the weirdest thing. Like, the body's still there, but who he was, his true form, all of the things that just emerged when he was dancing was gone. And it really freaked me out. Matter of fact, I kind of avoided him for a little while before I went and danced with him again. And he became a regular dance partner over time, but it kept driving me crazy. Like, what is going on with this guy? It was more irritating. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't have enough pieces to the puzzle. And he took this class. He'd known me, I guess, about a year and a half at this point. So he took this class, and we were walking through shielding exercises. And he had, at that point in his life, started like really emerging and using his empathy. And he wasn't so weirdly
Protective?
yeah, I have no idea how to explain it. It's not it wasn't a shield. It was more like he just, how you said, tucked in, but
Yeah,
it
retreating.
was it was tight, like a knotted concrete ball. And he had been emerging. He'd been really working on that. And so we had this class and he just went again. And I went, okay, I think I have messed something up. And what I figured out is that empaths should not shield the same way that energy sensitives do learn how to shield and can learn how to shield, unless you're an 8 and you kind of already got that. Empathic 8s are a little different. They already naturally shield, but they have the ability to use their empathy through that shield. And the shield is more of a porous membrane all of the time. Empaths if they use a hardcore shielding technique, an armored shielding technique, it actually inhibits their ability to use their empathy.
Totally makes sense.
And it's so harmful to them because then they don't trust their world. They don't feel the things they need to feel out in the world. They are not using their sensors in a healthy way. And I've totally like changed my perspective on how I talk about shielding. And unfortunately, every once in a while, I get an empath who thinks I'm talking about them, and I'm actually talking about an energy sensitive. And then they try doing that, and then they wonder why things go sideways. And it is I'm still learning to be clear on that. Also, not an empath, so I don't always know when I get it wrong and say it
That's very
wrong.
interesting that you're bringing up like the shielding piece too, because I soon after tiptoeing into the new agey spiritual, pagan, whatever, magical spaces, I came across shielding practices, and they were, looking back, they're all energy shields.
Yep.
But in Druidry, I actually learned the Druid's Egg practice, which is a form of shield, but it was always mesh.
Yeah.
And the mesh only let in good, and
Mhm.
also clearly let those filaments or
Yes.
tendrils, feelers, sensors move outward.
Mhm.
And that's another interesting thing about empaths is these sensors come in all kinds of different forms. Each
Yep.
individual's sensors are different than
They can.
others.
Yeah.
And then there seem to be some overlaps of how they show up. But,
Yeah.
I've sensed everything from like almost spider silks, just these very thin, gossamer,
Thin. Yeah.
you could hardly perceive them. They're so gentle,
Yeah.
to
Suction cups.
suction cups. You've
Barbs.
fingers.
Yeah.
Cotton balls. Like there's
Yeah.
been so many different, and then I experience mine as wispy vines.
Mhm.
They're not solid like vines. They're not quite that, but that's the visualization that I have. And so that's one of the cool things about being an empath, is that you can deepen your relationship to those sensors.
Yeah.
And have more aware. Astra's like, hello.
She likes Safrianna.
I love Astra. I even have a cup today that kind of looks like Astra.
I saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, we can deepen our relationship with these sensors and enhance how we pick up information. It's even fun, like with my empath partner, now that we know to communicate about it and
Yes.
not get in the feedback loops,
Mhm.
because oh my gosh, the feedback loops are devastating when they happen. And
Oh yeah.
definitely used to have those with an ex of mine, looking back, who I know is a very wounded empath, and
Yeah.
unfortunately fell into what empaths can do, which is narcissistic type traits, because
Yep.
they can feel emotions and they
Yep.
can therefore manipulate those emotions.
Oh yeah.
But that feedback loop, if you don't know how to converse about it and say, what are you experiencing? What am I experiencing? And ask clarifying questions.
Yes.
We'll walk around with everybody else's stuff loaded in us and just not know who we are, or not know what we're really feeling. So that's one of the dangers of empathy.
Yeah. It's probably the biggest risk for any empath is first assuming that you're crazy, right? Because you're picking up all this stuff and nobody's validating it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's actually talking about their real feelings. And two, the tipping into the narcissism, right? Like human beings are amazing creatures. We use all the tools we have to survive, right? Whatever survival means to you. So we've all done it. Nobody's exempt. Nobody has gone through the world never doing harm to anyone. We have all done it. And empaths can, when they are in traumatic, toxic environments, or I've actually seen it happen. It was an experience from somebody I knew in high school. So this is a long time ago, but really strong empath. Was adopted at like 3-4 years old, has no memory of the pre-adoption time. Nobody knows really, his adopted parents didn't really know what that pre-time was, but we all know that the first 5 years are extremely formative, right?
Yep.
He loving home, His his adoptive parents were, I met them by accident at a play. Very energy sensitive, not empathic at all.
Oops.
Yeah. So this poor empathic child lived in a home that didn't even recognize his empathy. By the time I met him in high school, I can't say he was a bad person, but he definitely used every single empathic awareness as a tool to have his needs met. So
Mm-hmm.
he was charming, manipulative, all the things you can think of that narcissists do. And he was really very dismissive of anybody else's needs because his needs were the ones that needed to be met. And I can't say he was a bad person because I
It's
don't
trauma.
think,
It's all trauma.
yeah, I mean, I had some wonderful conversations with him. I asked him 5 million questions because by the time I had met him, I had encountered a couple different people in my life. I'd lived with one who had some of these traits, but I didn't get the same toxicity from him. And he was nice to me. I found out later he had a crush on me. So I totally was oblivious to that. And he was a narcissist. So, of course, he was using his empathy and my naivety to try to figure out how to manipulate me because he had a crush on me. And I was not fulfilling that role very well because I was confused, neurodivergent, and also oblivious to what was going on. And he ended up mad at me and like wouldn't talk to me for the next 3 years of high school. But it was a wonderful experience that I learned a lot about how that narcissism is, how his perception of what he was living in his world and what he was picking up on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really careful. I didn't tell him it was an empath. I just asked 5 million questions because I wanted to understand. I didn't give him any answers. He thought I was, well, I don't know what he thought, but he's definitely narcissistic. And every girlfriend he had all the way through high school was definitely, he used that empathy to gauge who he could manipulate
Mm-hmm.
the most to get his needs met, right?
Yeah, it's very easy as an empath to pick up on who in the room has the lowest self-esteem and who's
Mm-hmm.
curling into themselves and who's
Yep.
desperate and who's
Oh,
sad
yeah.
and who's lonely. Like, and that's the lived reality as an empath. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
We have my other partner is energy sensitive, and there are times they're like, man, I wish I had that. And I'm like, I don't
No.
know that you really do, because that's the thing with being an empath and having it online and being aware of it too, is like you are picking up on people's shame, people's anger, people's
Mm-hmm.
deep sorrow, their grief, their like, it's like walking around with a cup of water with little drops of all these concentrated emotions in it and constantly drinking it. Like, that's literally
Yeah.
what being an empath is like.
Oh, I love
And
that visual. I love that visual.
yeah, and when I talk about, since I have energy sensitivity and empathy, when I'm like going through a grocery store, the energy sensitivity is big, diffusive bubble that's just kind of like, ooh, the vibes over there are crackly, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
then the filaments, the sensors are more like a whale's teeth
Mm.
filtering the krill through when they're in the
Oh.
ocean. So they're actually tasting all the little things that they're dragging in. And that's
Oh, I
what being
love
an
that.
empath is like. So that's why when
Oh.
I'm in a grocery store, I want to tuck all of that so I'm not
Yeah.
consuming, because that's what it is. It's like consuming those little bits of emotion. It's also when you smell something, you're breathing a
Mhm.
part of that thing in.
Mhm.
That's what being an empath is like. You're literally
Oh.
taking some of that in. You're tasting it, smelling it, touching it, feeling it, being enmeshed in it, because you can smell that emotion. And
Yeah.
that's essentially what it's like. So it's not a, to those of you out there who don't have empathy, who are like, man, really wish I did. Not necessarily. That really noxious thing when you smell someone's fart and it's really nasty, like you're taking that in. That's what other people's emotions can be like.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I did go through that when I was younger. I did. There was a yearning, like
I'm
all these,
sure.
there's so many things that y'all pick up on that I just don't get. And I live with somebody who's an empath who, you know, I think from an energy sensitive perspective to understand what we're picking up from empaths, when an empath has like a big emotion, like they're angry or frustrated, like what I see is the filaments doing all kinds of things. Filaments, these sensors,
Thrashing about.
sometimes they're thrashing, sometimes they're really still, sometimes they're folded in looking like they're hurt. There's all kinds of things. But um for me, it's like a pressure or the air changed. I get it most from my partner because he's such a strong empath. Like, I know something is off
Something
and
shifted.
something shifted. And I mean, I've been in a room where everything's fine, and he walks in the room and it's like all of the air in the room became 50 pounds. Like the
Mhm.
molecules are all 50 pounds each. And I've had to do the like, okay, I have to remember to breathe. It's not actually heavy air, though it feels like it. And I've learned, like, we have rules in our relationship because, well, we need them because he's an empath and I'm an energy sensitive and we do not speak the same language. Not in that way. And one of the rules is it's something I do. He does not do it because he's an empath. He doesn't have to, but I have to do whatever it is that's going on. Are you mad at me? Are you upset at me? Are you happy at me? Like, is it about me? Whatever it is that's happening, is it about me? And if I get a no, I ignore it. I ignore the heaviness in the air. I'm aware of it. It's there, but I can like go, I don't have to pay attention to that,
Mhm.
right? If it is about me, the next question is, are we in a place we can talk about it, or should we just go, I can go hide in my studio? Like, I'm okay with that. We don't have to talk about it now, but right? Like, and most of the time in our relationship, it's I'm not ready to talk about it. Like, because him as an empath, he's got to figure out how to talk about it with his bio number. Like, he has to figure out how he's going to say that in a way that he doesn't want to hurt me.
Mhm.
Um, and because I don't have empathy, if I'm irritated about something, it's so funny because he'll start like his tendrils, his little sensors will start like lightly touching me, and then he'll go retreat. He won't say anything. And then I have to go, okay, I'm ready to talk about what I was angry about or what I was frustrated. And he'll go, okay, now or not now, right? Like, we've learned that even the empath who knows all the emotions that I'm going through, we have to give each other permission
Mhm.
to find the time to be okay to talk about it. Because I think there are certain bio numbers, I think, that they want to talk about it right now. It's right in front of them. They want to talk about it right now. And I have ADHD, so I totally can commiserate with, sometimes I think I'm going to forget, so I probably need to talk about it now. But there is this thing about how empaths process, like you said, like there's a timing thing that I think energy sensitives are probably the worst about this. Like, they have a notice of something and they want to address it right now. But that is not usually how empaths work. I mean,
Mhm.
by nature, I don't think empaths are normally like, I felt the thing, I know what the thing is, I feel it all the way through already, and I want to have a big long discussion about the damn thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. We need more time to sort and
Yes.
go, theirs, mine, that other person's, mine,
Yep.
them, like, and be able to really assess what's happening in here,
Yeah.
because we can't help but pick up on the other person's info too of what they're feeling.
Yep.
And then that tangle happens where it is like, is it mine? Is it theirs? I need time. And I absolutely agree. Like, if I try to go into a conversation right away when I'm still trying to sort that, I'm gonna not represent myself correctly.
Yeah.
I'm going to represent everything that's in the situation right now correctly, but it's going to be messier than what really needs to be there
Yeah.
because we're working with emotional material.
Yeah. And that feedback that you get in the moment of having the discussion, I think is something equally important. I've gotten it from my partner a lot and a couple other. I have a 6 trifecta friend, but her number 1 out of her 3 is empathy. And she has expressed several times to me how grateful she is that when she needs to talk about something, she knows that first off, I'm not picking up on the emotions she's trying to process. So she can talk to me about those things and not get a weird feedback loop, right? But my partner has said kind of the opposite, where he gets the feedback loop of, not feedback loop, but he gets my emotions reacting to the thing that has upset him that he wants to talk to me about, right? And for him, that can be distracting. So we have learned to communicate about difficult things with understanding that whatever it is that he's upset at me about, he's going to feel my reaction and all the mess that's going on with me as he's trying to clarify the things that he's untangled that he wants to talk about, right?
Yep.
So there's a thing that we do, which is we give each other to somebody else. I actually was told this a long time ago by somebody who was baffled by our relationship. They're like, you have the weirdest arguments. Like, he says something and you stop, you breathe, you close your eyes, and then you say like 3 things, and then he does something, but I don't know what it. And this was an energy sensitive that was witnessing it. They were like, and the words you're saying, I can tell are like layered. Like that one word means 10 things. She's like, how the hell do you resolve anything? And I went, we speak the same, but also from different perspectives, because he's an empath and I'm an energy sensitive. And at first I did talk too much because I over explained, because that's my trauma response, 100%. I was also raised by people who talked a lot about everything.
I err on the side of over communication versus under communication, but yeah.
Yeah.
Under communication never works.
Yeah. But we don't, in our relationship, do that because we don't need to. We figured out that if we have separated and we're in a good place and we can come into the conversation, we both know that we have different gifts. We both know we're going to pick up different things. So when he says his 5 things, that's why I take a deep breath. I go inside. I feel through the flavor, the energy of each of the words, right? I don't, it's not that I don't react. It's that I take what's in and I respond, because I know those sensors are there. They're picking up every single nuance of all the things I'm feeling from those 5 words. So I can't lie about it, first off.
No, don't try to lie to an empath.
Won't work.
Know better.
Well, you know. But 2, it's also the trust, right? Like we have this deep trust that he has processed. He's not just reacting. He's just not saying random things. He also knows that I'm never intentionally saying anything to be hurtful. I'm just oblivious to the things that he is very aware of. So he also takes that in and goes, oh, different perspective. This is, and he can feel that it's authentic and it's genuine, and that I am slowing down and I am taking care. And he teases me and calls me walking chaos, because that is a true statement. It's all that catalyst energy. But there is this, I think fundamentally what I'm saying is empaths can and should demand time to process what their gift is giving them.
Mm-hmm.
It's important and it's valuable to all the people around them. And it's a beautiful gift.
Yeah. And it is annoying to other people. I want
Yeah.
to own that, especially the energy sensitives who normally, like, they don't have that experience of knowing exactly what someone else is feeling. So when someone understands exactly what they're feeling and they don't have to say a word, it can feel invasive. It can
Yeah.
feel frustrating. Like, damn it, I didn't want you to know that. Like, I have my emotional boundaries. I didn't want you to
Right.
know that. And so
And if an empath identifies, hey, I know you're sad, an empath might go, or an energy sensitive might go, why are you telling me what I feel? How the fuck do you know that? And I'm going to deny that with every ounce of my being. Go
right.
the fuck away and stop touching me.
Yeah.
Like it's a visceral response. It's not a, it could be a trauma response too, but
Yeah.
it's not meant to be a, I really genuinely don't believe any energy sensitive intentionally undermines an empathic's gift.
It's,
Just
yeah.
like I
Response.
don't think empaths are intentionally being invasive. They're not.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be given this gift or signed up to have this gift if there wasn't a reason for it. And I
Yeah.
think, what would happen if the world was just energy sensitives? No one would have emotional awareness of each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that wouldn't be great. And if we
That would
had
be
just a world
awful.
of empaths, then everybody would know what everyone's feeling all the time, and this planet's not ready for that. So
I
there's a reason for it all.
Oh yeah, there is a reason. And I traditionally, for many years, I dated trifectas and empaths, but I'd never intentionally sought out or took the opportunity to date somebody who was just energy sensitive. And I did that once. I have many words about that. Most of them are, that was not a good idea. Not because this person was bad. This person is not a bad person. They are still my friend. They're still in my life loosely, kind of adjacent. Uh, Definitely has psychopathic tendencies. Not psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies. I got that wrong. But it was awful because neither one of us knew what was going on.
Mhm.
And neither one of us had the tools at the time to understand that. So I overtalk and I fawn when I'm in a traumatic experience. And this person goes, oh, you're fawning. I like that. It feels good. And I'm just going to soak it in. Sociopathic tendency. Hello.
Right.
Right. And so the dynamic in the relationship was awful. And I felt awful all the time. And I couldn't figure out why. It was just so confusing. Like, we're talking, but I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And we would then retreat to our individual silos of silence and overthink the thing to the point of death, and then come back and talk about it. And the thing we thought we were talking about, one person had been thinking about this thing, and the other person had been thinking about this, and neither one of the things were together. It was awful. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And I mean, the breakup was just abandonment. This sociopathic, energy sensitive just went, yeah, I'm done, and just left one day. And I was standing around going,
Huh?
like,
Huh?
how did I miss the warning signs? I don't understand. And there was a lot of like, I say one thing and do another thing. Like, it was a gaslighting nightmare.
Yeah, and it's really funny that you now have noticed that, like,
Uh
what
huh.
the impact of that is versus the being with an empath, which can be obnoxious and annoying, especially when you really don't want us to read you, right? But we do, because that's what we do.
Yep.
And it certainly allows there to be that someone's bringing the thing to the table so everyone can talk about it because
Yeah.
someone at the table is aware of it. And that is
Yes.
the, like, that's the gift in it. But
It
again,
is it
it's
is the
vulnerable.
gift. It is the gift. And I think, I've said it before on our shows, and I want to caveat this with a lot of love and grace and a lot of compassion. And you know that I feel this with the bottom of my heart. I know when I tell empaths the first time, hey, you have these wonderful tendrils, sensors, you're feeling everything up. That's how you navigate the world. Most empaths, their first reaction to that is, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I do that to you? And I'm like, yes. And trust me, if I didn't like it, I would say something, right? Like I would strengthen my own barriers. I have the ability to completely cut people off. I know that ability is there because my partner has definitely expressed verbally when he does not like that. Because whatever it is about my gift, I have the ability to completely turn off people's ability to sense that I'm even alive. And it's apparently deeply concerning.
A little distressing for the people who care.
Right. So I am aware, because of my awareness of how empaths are in the world, that they need that touch. They need to be able to use their sensors to reach out and touch. If it becomes icky and overwhelming and too much touchy, I do have the ability to slap them away. I don't do that without being very mindful that that can hurt the empath. So I don't do it just randomly. I usually give a verbal cue first, like, hey, please don't touch me. And then you might get a smack. But there is this energy. I think most energy sensitives have the ability to do that, but not aware that they're doing it when they're doing it sometimes.
Hmm.
But empaths are never using their sensors. Even the narcissists, I really don't get a sense that they're using their sensors ever intentionally to harm, because
Hmm.
it's just part of who they are.
Yeah.
There's no shame in being empathic. There's no need to be ashamed of that. There is no need to be disappointed that you've invaded somebody's privacy, and there's certainly no need to be afraid of your ability to feel this beautiful thing, because I think most energy sensitives do go through that spot of, I would love to kind of understand what the fuck is going on.
And they probably also go through the, I would really wish you would not feel what I'm
Touch me.
feeling and
Stop
touch
it.
me because I don't want you to know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, this gift, I do think that just like energy sensitivity, there's a lot of wild misunderstandings out there about how the gifts show up and what they mean. And I think that, it's really good to bring that awareness to how these gifts intersect and the ways they both
Yeah.
butt heads and complement one another. But if you are an empath out there, I just want to remind you again, you can take care of your sensors. You can clean them up. You can energy clear them. You can
Mhm.
clear the feelings and the emotions
Absolutely.
out. You can withdraw them when you need to. And you can use a shield with that sort of mesh overlay so that your sensors can still go out and do what they need to do, because
Yeah.
they do need to do it. I know when I've cut my empathy off, like it feels like walking around without an arm, right? There's
Yeah.
this missing element of life that was there that is really distressing to not be there, because I feel like I'm stumbling around blind. And if somebody is just an empath and they're
Yeah.
they're literally experiencing the world through that empathy and you cut that off, you're going to feel completely disconnected. And then that could be, part of that narcissism cycle of like, well, but I need some kind of connection. So let me feel only what I need to feel in order to get what I need to get. Like it gets very, very tangled. So we have to take care of
You
these
do.
sensors and ourselves.
Yeah. And they're beautiful. And I know that I have said things, because I am energy sensitive and I am not an empath, and I have just I have neurodivergence, and I'm also extraordinarily transparent. So what comes in comes out. Yeah, that's just the way it is. It's never, I don't think that many energy sensitives realize how impactful that is to the empaths. I'm aware of the impact and I still screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
And never from a place of harm. And I don't think most energy sensitives do it from a place of harm. But those empaths are sensitive, and there's a reason for it. I know that empaths in the world are meaningful and are so much a part of teaching us how to be in a space in an authentic, emotionally, what's the word?
Real.
Real. Thank you. Real. You know,
We
I've,
feel right through if you're not
yeah,
showing up. If your
yeah.
words aren't matching what's happening in here, we might not say anything, but we're sitting here going, all right.
Well, and I've been very blessed to have some amazing counselors personally over the years that are very empathic. And I always got this phrase that I was like, I don't understand what you're saying. They'd go, "You're so emotionally intelligent." And I'm like, I feel like I'm emotionally stumped, like I am handicapped, because the counselor's the empath, right? And they're picking up all this authentic stuff that in sessions I'm just like, so of course that poor empathic counselor's like, "You're really emotionally intelligent. You're like touching all the things." And I'm like, yeah, because it would be a complete waste of my time to go to a counselor who's an empath and
And
fuck
try to
around,
lie. Yeah.
right? Like,
Try and fib.
but it took me like nearly 50 years of my life to go, oh, they don't even know they're an empath. Like, I mean, I've known in my life that people don't know that, but it had never occurred to me. It was actually a couple of years ago. It was a counselor, and she said that, and I went, and then she had said something about, "You're so empathetic," and I went,
Do you know what that means?
So I had that discussion with her, and the whole thing shifted. She's like, knowing that I know that, now I can pinpoint my energy sensitives, because energy sensitives who have become aware that they're not empathic in some way, even if it's unconscious, they are the more emotionally intelligent clients. And the empaths that have never had the validation of their empathy become lost often in that morass of all of the emotions.
Yeah, I don't even know what's mine.
Yeah.
What
And I
am I
love,
feeling? There's too much here.
I know. And I love how you and your empathic partner are learning the language, because really that's something that can be taught to the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you be two empaths together and be okay without getting caught in this other thing?
And it's so silly too, because literally even talking about it, we'll go, oh, okay, that's your stress. And then 5 hours later, I'll be like, it's my stress now. It caught up to me. I'm feeling it now. I let it in. Damn it. So it's a work in progress, but yeah, like I'm glad I have the gift. I'm glad I can teach people about the gift. I'm glad I'm a trifecta so that I can teach people the difference, even though a lot of times I'm still sorting out the difference.
And that's
um,
valid.
and that's probably where we're going to go next. So we will have 2 more episodes in this particular mini series. So we'll be coming back to talk about trifectas, so people who do have all 3 gifts, and then we will be talking about Earth Sense Booster as well as Earth Sense First, I think, in a little conglomerate episode, and explore how they kind of deviate
Diverge. They
from one
do.
another, and how the presentation shows up differently.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens from there. But I hope that this has been informative, and for my fellow empaths out there, that maybe you recognized something in yourself and how you show up in the world that you can honor and continue practicing how to be in even more alignment with it, even more integrity with it, and even more health with it, so that you're not getting lost in other people's emotions,
Yeah.
because that's the tricky part.
I want to validate something. It's just an offshoot, but I just got touched
Yeah.
by an empath in the future that has gone back in time to say hello. And I want to validate that that is a thing empaths do. It is not talked about, but I think it's time for us to talk about how empaths will reach back in time. Future empath self, I see you, I hear you, I feel that. I don't know what I'm feeling. I just know you're touching because I'm not empathic, but there is a curiosity there. So reach out when you feel safe to do so and ask us more questions, because I think it is important to validate that empaths do that.
Mm-hmm.
I still do not understand all of it, but I know it happens.
Yes. And we can reach through the present time field and touch people too. I do it all the
Yeah.
time. That's how I say hi to people when I don't actually want to pick up my phone.
You do that to me all the time. I'm like,
Hi,
yep, hi, and I go on about my business because I'm never really sure. Like, again, not empathic. I just know the touch. So,
and that's usually with me, that's all it is. It's just, hi, I love you. And then
yeah,
I move on about my business. But
yeah,
it's very fun. So thank you again for listening, for tuning in. As Red said, if you have specific questions, you're always welcome to reach out. We're very easy to get in touch with.
yeah.
So just message, just comment, just let us know what you want us to explore, and we will be sure to do so. So until next time, our friends, we love you, we see you, we believe in you, and we are cheering you on.
Thank you
Until
so
next